Hello everyone, welcome to the Fallen Games. I am Robert and today we are kicking off a new series where I will try to recreate the journey that Frodo and Sam took in Lord of the Rings to destroy the One Ring here in Minecraft. Now, as you can probably see, I'm at Bag End and I am in fact on the Minecraft Middle-earth server where a few dedicated individuals has made it their job to recreate the whole of Middle-earth in one-to-one scale. I'm not kidding. They're doing everything. Now, at the time of this video being recorded, unfortunately the server isn't fully complete. They have done probably over, I'd say, 75% of it. Mordor is the one place that they have yet to complete. It's there, but there just isn't anything in it. So hopefully by the time that we get to Mordor, it'll be done because this series is going to take quite a while. So, Bag End, here we are. We are in the Shire. Now let's kick things off, shall we? So then, how the series is going to work is basically I'm going to be visiting several different locations, such as Bag End here, and I'm going to be giving you a little bit of background about the history and lore of certain places because Minecraft Middle-earth is full of rich lore. It really is. If you're a Tolkien fan, then you will probably enjoy this series quite a lot. So let's start with Bag End, the first probably iconic location that we're going to visit in the series. Now, Bag End was originally home of Bilbo Baggins, who inherited it from his parents, Bungo and Belladonna Baggins. It was Bungo who actually originally built it. Now, they've recreated it here much like it's seen in the movies. So you can tell that it's got quite a lot of influence from the movies, but it also has influence from the books. Now, the whole was a contentious point between Bilbo and his relatives, the Sackville Baggins, who wanted it for themselves. And in fact, the Sackvilles did appear in Lord of the Rings, the films. They appeared in the Fellowship of the Ring, the extended version, and they also appeared in the extended version of The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, and at the end of the Battle of the Five Armies, they were one of the hobbits at the auction when Bilbo came back, and everyone thought he had died. Um, so it's kind of been they're quite minor characters, but they play quite a significance in Bag End. Now, Bag End eventually ended up in the hands of Samwise Gamgee after Frodo left for the Undying Lands at the end of Return of the King, and it remained with his family for about 3 generations afterwards. So it got quite a lot of use and has quite a lot of history. But I won't spend all day talking about Bag End. Let's move on. And let's move on to our next location. You have to love flying. Which will be Hobbiton, because Bag End is on a hill that overlooks Hobbiton. Now, Hobbiton is one of the oldest villages in the Shire, and it's located roughly in the centre of the Shire. Kind of, but if you look at a map, you'll see that Bag End is a central place. Now, we are about to approach a river which is known as the Water, and it's actually a tributary of the Brandywine River, which we'll encounter further on. Here's the Water, as they call it. Quite an unoriginal name for a river, but hey, who am I to complain? Now, there is a small inn in Bag End called the Ivory Bush, and a mill which is over there, as we can see. Now, the mill was destroyed during the War of the Ring and then rebuilt to a more modernised steel mill. So, just an interesting fact there. Now, a common misconception is that most of the village is just hobbit holes, when in actual fact, at the time of Frodo leaving the Shire, which is the time that this server is supposed to take place in, hobbit holes were actually becoming outdated, and many hobbits lived in small houses such as these, which is something that Peter Jackson's films don't really portray. You see probably one house in the films, and that's it. Whereas on the server, they've gone for more of a traditional look that is much closer to the book, as we've got quite a few houses here in Hobbiton. Now, much of the village was destroyed when Saruman came to the Shire after the One Ring was destroyed at the Battle of Bywater. However, after Sauron was defeated, Saruman was killed and his servants were expelled, Sam used magic soil. Now, I'm not making this up. Magic soil from the garden of the Elf Queen Galadriel to heal the Shire, including Hobbiton. Uh, because Hobbiton was quite devastated. The Shire was affected whole, but Hobbiton was one of the worst cases where a lot of the property, a lot of the structures and buildings were destroyed. So it kind of makes sense that it was the one place that needed the repair out of almost. So we are now going to leave Hobbiton and make our way along this road, which is where Frodo, Sam, and Pippin took on to start their journey out of Hobbiton. Now, the road is known as the Great East Road, and it stretches from the Grey Havens in the west all the way to Mirkwood in the east, and it pretty much covers the entirety of Middle Earth. You can pretty much walk along this straight for quite a few miles without counting anyone. It is a seriously long road. However, we'll talk more about this road in a later episode because we will rejoin it soon. Now, up ahead, you can see this forest area that we're coming to. Now, at this point in their journey, they were actually being pursued by the Nazgul, the Black Riders in the film, and so they decide to come off the road and turn into the forest here, which is known as Woody End. And this is something that you briefly see in the Peter Jackson films, but it's not expanded on much. Um, and Woody End is a large forest that is in the centre of the Shire and is not really talked about much either. Now, while we make our way through Woody End, the forest, I'm briefly going to talk about the series because there are some things that I really need to clarify. Now, certain locations I won't be visiting because I'm going to be recounting the steps that Frodo and Sam took as near as I possibly can in the server. However, obviously, Minecraft hinders that somewhat, and the design and build of the server does as well. Plus, there isn't that much relevant information to go on in Tolkien's lore about some certain areas. However, I will be sticking to the route mostly, which means, unfortunately, I won't be visiting places such as Isengard, or Minas Tirith, or Fornost, or Dol Guldur, or Erebor, because Sam and Frodo never visited them places on their journey to Mordor. Now, we actually will probably see Minas Tirith from a distance later on during the journey, but we won't actually visit it. So I'm just warning people now, because I don't want anyone commenting saying how disappointed they am that I'm not visiting these places. Well, sorry, but they never took that route. I'm trying to recount their journey as near as I possibly can. Now, later on, hopefully, when I get nearer places such as Rivendell and Mordor, hopefully I will be joined by certain others along this journey who can help to expand the lore a bit, because I would consider myself a Lord of the Rings fan. I consider myself to know a bit about the lore, but the dedicated individuals that actually made this server know a lot more. And so when, for instance, when we come to a place like Moria, which is steeped in history and lore, then there will be a lot to talk about. Now, as you can see, we're coming near to the center of Shady Wood now, and you're going to start to see some things in a minute, which I'll point out as we go. Now I have participated in a couple of builds on here, theme builds. The first one I took part in was the House of Stewards that was going to be placed in Minas Tirith, and the Tree of Light. However, I haven't done much else apart from that. Mainly just explored it because, as I said, this is a one-to-one recreation of Middle-earth, and it's huge. You can walk for days in here and still discover new things and new locations, which is brilliant. I love it. I absolutely love it. And the individuals that have taken it upon their job to do this, I give huge credit for. And part of this series is just a celebration of them and their hard work on the server. Now, the server IP will be in the description below, so please go and check it out if you're interested. I would highly recommend that everyone goes and actually comes on the server and has a look around because the work that they've done is fantastic. So we're approaching our first stop along the journey. So at this point, Frodo was Sam and Pippin were still being followed by the Nazgul. However, a strange sound coming from ahead frightened the Nazgul away, and it signified the approaching of elves, these being high elves. And this is when the hobbits encountered Gildor and his company of high elves, who were actually just passing, and the noises that scared away the Nazgul were actually singing. Yeah, singing. I know, it's quite funny that Nazgul's scared of singing. Keep that in mind anytime you might get in close with a Nazgul. Now then, this scene is never actually shown in the films, but it plays a huge importance in the book. And we should be coming upon it fairly soon now. Now then, the elves appeared to have a shimmering light around them to the hobbits, which is never really explained why, but it's kind of hinted that it's just the way that they lit from the dark canvas of the forest. And here is the camp which they stayed at that evening. Now, as you can see, it's very, very elvish. You have the beds which are on these walkway canopies here, reminding you of Rivendell design. Everything's in the air. Elves somehow like to live amongst the trees, and so the beds are up here. And this is the camp where they stayed the night. And it was here that Gildor told Frodo of the dangers that they were going to encounter along the way. And funny enough, all of the things that he said came true, which is ironic and still a bit undecided about how he knew what future events were going to play out. Now, this camp is near Wood Hall and is roughly in the centre of the forest. As if we look over here, in the distance we might start to see farmland, which we will cover in our next video, as our next video will take us further towards Bree and eventually towards Mordor. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this. Sorry that this first episode may have been a bit sporadic. I may have been waffling a bit throughout it, but I can assure you the next part there is a lot to talk about, as it gets quite in depth from here on in. But yes, please comment below what you think of the series, how it can be improved. Also, if there's anything that I've covered during the episode that you'd like to know about, or anything that I haven't covered, please comment below. So until next time, everyone, thank you for watching, and please, please check out the server because it is fantastic, and the work they've done here is just fantastic. I can't praise it enough. So until next time, when we will be encountering strange farmland and a Tom Bombadil. Till then, bye guys.